She left me for a younger man. Then my daughter blamed me. But what came next? None of them saw coming. My name is Martin. For 22 years, I was married to a woman I genuinely believed I'd grow old with. Her name was Lila. We built a life that, to the outside world, looked steady, maybe even ideal. But behind the walls of our modest home, the cracks had already begun to form, even before either of us had the courage or cruelty to acknowledge them. We weren't high school sweethearts or some fairy tale couple. We met in our late 20s, both career-driven, practical, and focused. We had serious talks early on about what kind of life we wanted. Lila was steadily climbing the corporate ladder in finance, and I just landed a managerial position at a logistics firm. We agreed to wait before starting a family. We wanted stability, a nest egg, a home that didn't feel temporary. For the first 5 years it worked. We were two people rowing in the same direction. Long days, quiet dinners, shared glances that said, "We've got this." Eventually, we bought a quiet 3-bedroom in the suburbs. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Around our 5th anniversary, Lila found out she was pregnant. I still remember that moment. My hands shook holding the test, my heart filled with a nervous joy I hadn't felt before. When our daughter Nora was born, everything changed, but in a good way at first. Lila chose not to return to work after maternity leave. She said she wanted to be there for Nora's first steps, her first words, her scraped knees and school plays. I agreed. I supported her decision wholeheartedly. My salary was enough. We weren't rich, but we had what we needed. As Nora grew, so did our responsibilities. Bills piled higher, school expenses increased, and inflation crept in like a slow tide. I felt the pressure. So I did what I thought any good husband and father would. I worked harder. Longer hours, weekend meetings, picking up clients on the side. I told myself this is what men do. Provide, protect, push through the exhaustion. I believed the sacrifices I made were for something noble, for my family. One night, after a long day, I came home to find Lila at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. Nora was asleep upstairs. The light over the stove cast a soft, golden glow on her tired face. I sat down, loosened my tie, and said, "I'm not doing all this because I love my job. I'm doing it so you and Nora never lack anything." She reached across the table, touched my hand, and said I was the best husband and father a woman could ask for. That moment meant everything to me. I held on to it for years. No matter how tired I was, I made sure to show up. Every recital, every birthday, every anniversary, I was there. I'd miss sleep before I missed my daughter's school play. I may not have had energy for small talk at night, but I showed up when it counted. By the time Nora hit her teenage years, we were financially stable. Her college fund was secured. We had savings, no debt, and a comfortable life. So I slowed down. I stopped chasing promotions. I finally had time to breathe and be present. That's when everything unraveled. The more time I spent at home, the more I noticed something off about Lila. It wasn't sudden, it crept in slowly. Her smiles didn't reach her eyes anymore. Her tone was clipped, her responses defensive. She'd lie about minor things, twist my words, or act like I was an intruder in my own home. First, I chalked it up to stress. But as the weeks passed, I realized it wasn't a bad day. It was a new version of her. One I didn't recognize. I tried to talk to her. Really talk. But she dismissed me. Every time I brought up our disconnect, she'd shut me down or walk away. It got to the point where I questioned my own reality. Was I imagining it? Was I the problem? Then, one evening, I found the answer I wasn't looking for. I had just finished responding to emails in my home office when I noticed the house was unusually quiet. I walked down the hallway and heard muffled laughter from our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. There she was, sitting on the edge of our bed, her phone propped up, giggling like a schoolgirl. She was FaceTiming a man, much younger than her. He was teasing her flirtatiously. She was blushing, twirling her hair. I stepped in. She jumped like she'd been electrocuted. Scrambled to end the call. then turned on me. Why are you creeping around like that? You always do this. Just barge into things like a child. I asked her calmly. Lila, are you cheating on me? She didn't flinch. Yes, she said. I am. My world fell silent. She stared at me with no remorse. Then added, what did you expect, Martin? You were never here. I was alone for years while you buried yourself in work. I needed to feel alive again. She blamed me, as if loyalty had an expiration date. A few days later, she told me she was leaving. Just like that. You'll get the divorce papers soon, she said. I sat on the edge of the bed we once shared, stunned, hollow. I wanted to beg her to stay. But the part of me that had fought for years was too tired. She was already emotionally gone. I let her walk out without a word. What I wasn't ready for was how quickly I lost both of them. When I called Nora, who was away at college, I told her the truth. That her mother had been seeing someone else. That I had caught her red-handed. But instead of anger, Nora responded coldly. Maybe if you had been around more, Mom wouldn't have felt the need to look elsewhere. I felt like I'd been stabbed by my own child. All those years I spent working until my body gave out. All the birthdays I never missed. The private school, the braces, the college fund. None of it mattered. She sided with her mother. When the divorce came, I didn't contest it. I gave Lila a one-time alimony settlement so I wouldn't have to be financially tied to her anymore. She declined the house, said she had somewhere better in mind. Kept it. After they left, the silence in that house was crushing. I turned to work. Not for ambition but survival. The settlement had wiped out much of my retirement fund. So I started freelancing, doing contract work. Not to impress anyone. Just to rebuild. 6 months later, Nora messaged me. Usual. Like nothing had happened. I didn't play along. I asked her directly. Why are you reaching out to me? She didn't reply. 3 months after that, I got a different message. This time it was an apology. She said she'd taken her mother's word without question. That she never considered everything I'd done for them. That she was ashamed. That time I agreed to talk. It wasn't easy. But she was still my daughter. In time she told me the rest. Her mother was broke. The younger man had vanished. After draining her savings and convincing her to invest in a failed startup. He even stole from her. Lila was alone. Broke. And humiliated. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. 'Cause I already had peace. 2 years after our divorce, Lila called me out of nowhere. Picked up by mistake. Martin, she said like we were old friends. Cut her off. Don't ever call this number again, I said and hung up. She left voicemails. Dozens. Long, tearful. Full of regret. But I never listened. Because I didn't need her to apologize to move on. I had already buried that chapter. Closure doesn't come from someone else admitting they broke you. Comes from deciding not to bleed for them anymore. And for me that was enough.